All right, let's jump into another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're focusing on InSupport Nätverksvideo.
InSupport Nätverksvideo.
Yeah, and they're doing some really interesting things with security solutions. So we've got a good bit of material to dig through. We've got the company presentation. We've got a lot of details on this TriConnect cloud service they offer. And then we've got some pieces on their like social responsibility and ethics.
Yeah.
So let's see what we can find out about InSupport.
Sounds good.
Why a customer might choose them.
What makes them stand out?
Yeah, you know, right off the bat, I'm looking at their history, and something that pops out to me is that they've been around since 2004 and been focused specifically on network video,
Oh, wow.
which is a pretty long time in the tech world,
That is a long time in the tech world.
especially for a field that moves as fast as security.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see if that long-term focus has given them a particular edge.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about all the changes that have happened since 2004, that's like almost 20 years ago. I mean,
To be a leader in network video for that long, it really makes you wonder what kind of expertise they've built up.
Right. And it's not just about like keeping pace with the changes either. It's about like looking ahead, anticipating what's next,
Yeah.
and then actually applying that to like real world security needs.
Yeah, and they seem to be very deliberate in how they apply that expertise. One thing that stood out to me was this idea of a best-of-breed business model. What does that even mean when we're talking about security solutions?
So that's a really interesting approach, and it means that they don't just like limit themselves to a single vendor or a single platform.
Right.
Instead, they actually go out and find the best components and solutions from a whole variety of different providers.
Oh, wow.
And then they integrate all of those top-tier technologies to create a custom system that's just right for each individual client.
So it's like building this like all-star team of security tech.
Exactly.
But that sounds so complex. How do they even make sure that all those different pieces work together?
Well, that's where all of that expertise and those long-standing partnerships come into play.
Okay.
You know, they've actually been working with companies like Axis Communications and Milestone Systems since 2005.
Wow.
So I would imagine those deep relationships give them a real advantage.
Yeah.
Not just when it comes to selecting the right components, but in making sure they all come together seamlessly into a system that's cohesive and effective.
Yeah, you can really tell that InSupport isn't going for this like one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
You know, they specifically talk about targeting customers with high demands for functionality and operation. So what kind of customers are we talking about here?
I think that points to clients who need the absolute best in terms of their security systems.
Yeah.
Like they need these highly customized solutions, and there can't be any room for error. It has to be super reliable. So think about like critical infrastructure government facilities or even healthcare institutions where security is absolutely paramount, and any failure could have, you know, really significant consequences.
Yeah, you can't afford to cut any corners in those kinds of situations.
Nope.
You really need a partner who understands those nuances
Yes.
and can tailor the solutions to those really specific needs.
Exactly. And that leads us to one of InSupport's most interesting offerings,
Okay.
which is TriConnect. This is their private cloud service,
Okay.
but it's specifically built for network video and security. What I think is really interesting is that it's hosted in dedicated data centers in Sweden and the Nordic region.
Okay, I'm curious about that. Why would a customer choose that instead of going with a more general public cloud provider?
That's a really good question, and I think the answer probably involves a couple of different factors.
Okay.
You know, first of all, data security is a huge concern for these kind of clients.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know, the stakes are high. By hosting TriConnect in these dedicated data centers, it seems like InSupport can offer a higher level of control and protection than you might find in a shared public cloud environment.
So it's about having that extra level of security and knowing exactly where your data is being stored
Yeah.
and who has access to it.
Exactly. And it's not even just about like physical security.
Sure.
You know, InSupport is really emphasizing they're compliant with a whole bunch of standards like ISO 27001 for information security
Right.
and GDPR for data privacy. So that really tells me they're serious about meeting those really strict requirements of their clients.
Yeah.
Especially those who are dealing with sensitive data.
It sounds like they're really checking all the boxes when it comes to data protection and regulatory compliance, which would be like absolutely essential for those organizations we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Like government agencies, healthcare providers, businesses with those really strict industry regulations.
Yeah, and there's one more detail about TriConnect that I find really fascinating.
What's that?
They talk about how it's designed to comply with the EU's Artificial Intelligence Act. And that makes me think that InSupport isn't just focused on current security needs, but they're actually anticipating how AI is going to shape the future of security.
Wow.
And data management.
That's really forward-thinking. It shows they're not just reacting to trends, but actually trying to get ahead of the curve. We've talked a lot about the technical side of what InSupport does.
Yeah.
But there's this other really interesting element that they emphasize.
Oh, yeah.
Which is social responsibility and ethical practices.
Right.
It's kind of unusual to see a security company focusing on that so much.
It definitely sets them apart. I think we tend to think of security companies as just focused on technology and protection.
Right.
But InSupport seems to have this bigger picture in mind. They talk about their commitment to the UN Global Compact, which, focuses on human rights, labor standards, environmental responsibility, anti-corruption.
It's really refreshing to see a company in this field taking ethics so seriously. It's almost like they're saying, we can give you the most cutting-edge technology, but we're also going to do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the specific things that InSupport is doing to actually live up to those UN standards?
Well, they actually give some concrete examples. They have a zero-tolerance policy on corruption. They emphasize fair working conditions. They even mention philanthropic work, which is not something you typically associate with a security company.
Not really.
It's interesting how they've managed to combine that high-tech approach to security with a very human-centric set of values.
Yeah, it suggests they really understand how their work impacts society as a whole.
I think so. It's not just about protecting data. It's about protecting people and upholding ethical principles. And in a world where technology is so intertwined with our lives, I think that kind of approach is going to resonate with a lot of customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it really does make you wonder if this is the start of a new trend where ethical practices become just as important as technical specs when choosing a security provider.
That's a great point. It's like they're saying, we've got your back.
Right.
Not just technologically, but ethically as well. And in a world where data breaches and cyber attacks are becoming more and more common, that kind of holistic approach to security is more valuable than ever.
Absolutely.
Speaking of being ahead of the curve, their company presentation really emphasized that they've been a market leader since the very beginning in network video. What kind of evidence did we see to back up that claim?
Well, their early adoption of network video technology definitely points to them being ahead of the game. I mean, remember they were founded in 2004 when this technology was still pretty new. Being an early adopter often means you get a much deeper understanding of the technology and its potential. And that can lead to a big competitive advantage.
And they specifically talked about being pioneers in the Nordic region. Which is known for being pretty tech-savvy and forward-thinking.
Absolutely. Being a pioneer in a market like that is not easy.
Not at all. And it's not just about being first either. It's about constantly innovating and staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
Speaking of innovation, they kept mentioning this commitment to meeting high functionality and operation demands. What does that tell us about their approach?
Well, I think it suggests that they've been focused on serving clients with complex and critical needs right from the get-go. They're not interested in just churning out generic solutions. They're going for those custom-tailored systems that can handle the most demanding situations.
And if they've been able to keep that focus and deliver on those promises for over 2 decades,
I know.
That says a lot about their capabilities and their staying power in this really competitive market.
Absolutely. It's one thing to be a pioneer, but it's another thing to remain a leader over time. And that takes constant adaptation. You have to deeply understand those evolving customer needs and be willing to push the boundaries of what's possible.
They also mentioned working really closely with their customers and focusing on long-term relationships. Is that just good business practice? Or is there something more strategic at play here?
I think it's both. Building strong long-term relationships is essential for any business, but it's especially important in a field like security where trust is absolutely paramount. But I also think it ties back to that emphasis on customization and meeting those high demands we were talking about.
You're saying those close relationships allow them to really understand the unique needs of their clients.
Exactly.
And tailor their solutions accordingly.
Yes, it's about moving beyond that transactional approach
Yeah.
and becoming a true partner in their client's security journey.
Okay.
I think that kind of collaboration can lead to much more effective solutions, more innovative solutions, and ultimately more secure solutions.
That makes me think of like a tailor making a custom suit. You know, taking precise measurements, understanding the client's style and preferences, and ensuring a perfect fit.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
A well-designed security solution should be both functional and elegant, just like a good suit.
Yeah.
You know, it should meet the client's specific needs, but it should also seamlessly integrate into their existing environment.
Right.
It seems like InSupport understands that security isn't just about technology, it's about people,
Right.
relationships, trust.
You know, it is really striking how they've managed to combine these high-tech security solutions with this genuine commitment to ethical principles. It's like they're setting a new standard.
I think so.
For what it means to be a responsible security provider. It's not just about protecting data and assets,
Right.
but it's also about upholding ethical principles and contributing to a better society.
It's a powerful message, and one that I think resonates with a lot of customers these days. And businesses, you know, they're showing that ethics and technology aren't mutually exclusive. They can go hand in hand.
And in a world where technology is just becoming more and more intertwined with our lives, that message is more important than ever.
Absolutely.
So it's really inspiring to see a company like InSupport proving that it's possible to be both technologically advanced and ethically responsible. Makes you wonder, could this be the start of a bigger trend?
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, consumers are becoming more discerning businesses, too. They're not just looking at the bottom line or the tech specs anymore.
Yeah.
They want to know that the companies they support are aligned with their values.
So for somebody who's evaluating InSupport as a potential security partner, what's the key takeaway here?
I think the key takeaway is that they're not just getting a vendor.
Okay.
They're getting a partner.
Right.
A partner who understands their specific needs.
Yeah.
A partner who's committed to those really high standards of security and compliance, but also a partner who shares their values when it comes to ethics and social responsibility.
So they're getting that peace of mind, knowing that their security is in capable hands, but also knowing that those hands operate with integrity.
Exactly. And that's a powerful differentiator these days.
It is.
It's not just about mitigating risk.
Right.
It's about choosing a partner that you can completely trust.
This deep dive into InSupport Nätverksvideo has been really eye-opening.
It has.
They're clearly a company that's doing things differently, combining cutting-edge technology with this deep commitment to ethical practices.
It's a really interesting combination.
It
They're
is.
definitely a company to watch. Their approach to security is innovative and, as we've been talking about, could very well represent the future of the industry.
So here's a final thought to ponder. In a world that's becoming more and more reliant on technology and data, could this commitment to ethical practices become just as important as those technical capabilities when choosing any provider?
Yeah.
Not just in security.
It's a great question.
It's something to think about as we navigate this complex and ever-evolving digital landscape.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.